And so that's very important because what's coming in this next year is a very significant download where the information that's going to come in needs to be spread around the globe, ideally, in a moment. So people like you that do these podcasts, I just look, it's 333. Right now I look at 333. That's the portal that in that moment, in that shining moment, eternity comes flooding into, my life. And it's like reminding me every day, 333. Hello, my name is Louis Bourgeois. I'm living in the Andean highlands of Ecuador. I'm from the United States. And so that's very important because what's coming in this next year is a very significant download where the information that's going to come in needs to be spread around the globe, ideally, in a moment. So people like you that do these podcasts that can connect, what Carolyn Mace called 1,000 points of light. Let's say there's 1,000 of us around the planet that have the ability to receive this download from eternity and deliver it, articulate it in a way that people can hear, people can understand, people can feel. So that's my vision really for my life, for this podcast, for my near-death experiences. Everything's leading to this beautiful crescendo, this moment, which I'm saying is really beginning now for me with you, connecting and sharing this message. And in the next 6 months, my hope is that my message will help people prepare themselves for this very beautiful, very radical, birthing experience that I see happening, beginning in about 6 months, and then that period will take about 7 years to complete. But it's a very, very important time here near the end of 2024 that people that have ears to hear are ready to prepare themselves to receive and be consciously a part of this beautiful awakening. But the context of my near-death experience is very important. And so really, I'd like to begin the story with just a brief mention of what happened when I was 21 years old, because I was a very normal person in university. I was engaged to be married. I had my life, pretty well in order, I think, for a 21-year-old. And all of that changed instantly, where suddenly in the night, like now, this time of night, I was up studying for an exam at the university, and this voice came into my mind very clearly saying that I was to quit the university, break my engagement, get rid of all my possessions, get in my car, and head west. I was in Connecticut, USA, so west could have meant anywhere. I didn't really know where west meant, but it said head west. So that was a very important moment, because how I responded to that was very significant. And I've done a lot of writing about this idea that, people receive the call, but they may not be willing to answer. They may not be willing to follow the guidance. So because I was willing, I broke my engagement, I quit the university, I ended up in San Francisco. The whole purpose of that trip to San Francisco, this would take about 1.5 years, but was to meet this woman from Burma, Asia. And this woman, she was a very high-level spiritual healer and teacher. And the purpose of our meeting was for her to confirm for me a vision that I had about Oasis and my life's destiny. And so I had this meeting with Rena where she literally confirmed my destiny, and that set everything in motion, because the destiny was something that I could not comprehend. I could not believe it, that I was to be this great spiritual teacher. And it was just sort of it might seem like a blessing to receive a destiny like that, but actually it's much more like a curse. So what would happen over the next 10 years was me trying to cope with this idea of being a very ordinary human being, but having a very extraordinary destiny. And so events precipitated. Typically what these experiences offer us is a way to break out of the conditioning our education, our, just how we think about ourselves as a human being. So literally when we die and we go into this experience outside of the space-time world, we're shown something remarkable. And you've had many, many people talking about their experiences and what they see, how this experience changes them is very significant. So the first experience I had with death wasn't technically an NDE, it was actually a fatal car crash. I mean, I died. So you could call it a near-death experience, but literally it was a death experience. It wasn't like leaving my body. I mean, I was dead. My body was destroyed, and then a remarkable thing happened because, again, what I've learned over this 50-year period is that when you spend time outside of this world, this space-time world, extraordinary things happen. Okay, so here I was dead. I'm in eternity, and I'm starting to receive this lesson, okay, about what my purpose is, what the the meaning of not just my life, but the life of our species on the planet. And so I would not be conscious of any of this for a long time. But I know I received this download during this time. And at the end of this accident, suddenly I was whole. It was like, I was resurrected, like I died and I was reborn. And it was significant because this happened shortly after my 33rd birthday. And I remember thinking to myself, it's kind of crazy, but Jesus died when he was 33. I think something significant like that is going to happen to me. And so literally it was like that. It was, self-imposed. I was drunk. I had a horrible car accident. So it was like I was killing myself, but then I was being reborn. And the being that was being reborn at 33, again, this would be a gradual process where 3 years into my recovery, I had to be institutionalized, of course, because I had a serious problem with alcohol and drugs. So I went through that whole process of 1 month in a treatment center, 6 months in a halfway house. I started my new life. But in this beginning of this new life, again, I started to grab on what they call like spiritual materialism. I started grabbing onto this idea like, oh, I'm this special being. Oh, I'm going to be an enlightened one. Oh, I'm so good. I'm so healthy. I'm running and I'm riding my bicycle and I'm doing all these amazing things to be like a superhuman. I was so lost, and now I'm found, and I'm just filled with gratitude, filled with this love of God, and all of this. But of course, this lesson that I was going to be taught needed to happen several times. So I was actually running in a race in Massachusetts in the summer of 1988. I'm 36 years old, and I'm filled with this hubris, this idea of, oh, I'm going to be great. I'm going to have my best run ever. And I went like crazy with sort of ambition, and I died of heat stroke. I collapsed on the race. I ended up, my body was in an ice bath, and the medics that are working on my body. So this is my technical NDE, where, okay, I'm dying and I'm above in this tent watching these 5 people working on my body, and one of them saying, we're losing him. And now here's where I go. And because I actually studied with Dr. Kenneth Ring, who's one of the leading experts on near-death experience. He was the one that really mentored me when I was in university and got this whole thing going. So I knew what to expect as I was dying. I wanted to go to the light. I wanted to go through all of that. And then this process started happening in my mind, saying, well, gosh, if you die, is this a good thing or a bad thing? Your mother's going to be really disappointed. The 2 friends you came to run the race with, they're going to find out you're dead. They're going to be really disappointed. The people you were going to visit the next day in Maine, they're going to be really disappointed you don't show up, and they'll find out, oh my gosh, 2 weeks ago he died in this race. Oh my gosh. So anyway, my brain was trying to process this idea about dying. And so that's what I'm saying. The ND wasn't a radical experience. I didn't go astral traveling other places. I didn't have any profound downloads other than it's not your time. You got to come back. And so anyway, the medics were working on me, and suddenly I answered their question and I was back. And that was kind of it. But the more significant death experience would come 4 years later when I'm 40. So here I'm still in this process of recovery and doing a lot of spiritual study. And I have this idea that I need to really mark my 40th birthday by going to Asia. I need to specifically go to India. I need to walk the Hindu pilgrimage trail from New Delhi to the source of the Ganges in Rishikesh in Gangotri, India. And so I go and I decide, because my birthday is in September, that I need to go to India in the month of August before my birthday, and which was a really horrible idea because this is the monsoon season in India. And I just have a horrible experience. Within a few days in New Delhi, I get very sick. I have to go traveling with a friend. We get up as far as Hardwar, and there's a big festival there. We decide just stop there and try to recuperate because we're both really sick. Anyway, during this time, Lily, I had this fever, and there's something that broke inside my brain that like regulates temperature, because normally you can't survive with a temperature of 107 degrees Fahrenheit, at least not for 3 days. Well, I had this high fever for 3 days, and I really assumed that I was dying because I was incredibly sick. I just felt like, well, okay, this was appropriate, I guess, a 40, just to drop my body in India. It's an easy place to die because they would just take my body and throw it in a pile with all the other bodies and, burn it, because I would be like this, just not an important person. And the most significant part of the experience was, obviously I did not die. After 3 days on my deathbed, the fever breaks, and I suddenly feel well enough to move from this place in Hardwar up to Rishikesh. And I had this experience where my friend goes out to find out about where to get a bus or whatever. And these two monkeys that were watching me from across the street, they come across on the wires and they come down, and they're sitting in the balcony right in front of my room. There's no door, it's just an open space. And my friend had gotten me a little bunch of bananas and a beverage to give me a little bit of strength to move. And one of the monkeys came into the room and stole my bananas, took them out on the balcony. They're sitting there in front of me, eating the bananas. And then one of them just gives me this look and then does a big evacuation right in front of me. So basically giving me this spiritual message, like, you think you're so special, you're nothing. You're literally lower than monkey shit, right? And so, I survived the experience. It was very traumatic getting back to USA. I remember thinking to myself, I don't know how to live anymore. I mean, I've really been sort of destroyed as a human being to the point where I don't know how to live in the world. So I remember this woman that I knew in Minnesota. She took me in, and I decided after a little while that I would just start growing a garden. I needed to get my hands in the soil. I needed to find a way to live in this world, because I was like a newborn baby. Again, I literally did not know anything about how to be a human being, how to live. And it took me 18 years. The message is that if you can become still, okay, oneness arising from stillness, inspiring simplicity, the most still point in the night is 3:33 a.m. That's the most, anywhere you are in the world, at that time, the world is the most quiet. It's the most still. There's not a lot of activity. Some people nowadays, because of light, some people are busy 24 hours a day, businesses and things like that. But in general, the night, the early morning is the most calm, quiet, still point. So that's the point in time of the day where you're going to have the least interference pattern, and you're going to be able to hear, you're going to be able to download whatever is important for your life. So I would always encourage people to consider starting a habit like I have now for many years. of arising well before sunrise and taking some time to receive, starting from a place of peace rather than sleeping till 6:30 and the alarm goes off and you get up and you're busy and you have to get ready for your day. That's a very unconscious way of living. To be very conscious of this, the sunrise that's coming in a few hours is glorious. The sunrise symbolizes a new day, a new opportunity, because like every day is this opportunity to give, right? So this is a big part of my teaching, is understanding what the world is for. What is time for? What is space for? Our function is to express, right? To receive from the divine source and express via our creativity and our enthusiasm and our gratitude. Express. Every day is an opportunity. Every day is the same template. The time is a template. The space is a template. The two together, time and space. The space-time world is for us to give to. People that are unconscious, they think the world is a place for getting from. So they're forgetting their true nature, and then they look at the world as, oh, I need the world. I need things. I need money. I need love. I need sex. I need food. I need, the world is for getting. No, the world is for giving to. Your day is for giving to. Your life is for giving to. If you see that, then you're going to have a happy day every day, because it's like, wow, another day to give, another day to express, another day. And it doesn't mean you have to accomplish anything. Simply by being happy and expressing that happiness to people around you, that's it. That's a gift. By being peaceful, by being centered in I wouldn't call it human confidence, but by knowing your relationship with eternity, time becomes your friend. Right? That's a very important thing. When your relationship with eternity is solid, time becomes your friend, and space, your life, the day, becomes this beautiful opportunity to give, to just give, because everybody's infinitely creative. My little daughter, I've watched her, we homeschool her, so she has no limits on her creativity. We give her whatever resources she needs, and she just is endlessly creative. I think that's how we're all supposed to be from birth. Endlessly creative, endlessly enthusiastic, because creativity and enthusiasm, they go hand in hand. You're always feeling enthusiastic when you're being creative. When I used to write books, I used to just always feel so happy because it was flowing. Now I never before was a speaker, because back in my day, you wrote books. Nowadays, you do podcasts. So I've adapted from writing to speaking, and I think I'm a rather articulate speaker. So it's very exciting, and I'm sure anybody can see, wow, this Sun King Louis guy, he's very enthusiastic. When he's speaking, he's like very, right, full of energy, right? Enthusiasm means you're literally full of God, you're full of energy. So it's obvious when someone's enthusiastic. And one thing, Lily, that I'm sure you know, and any of your viewers know this, that things like enthusiasm and happiness, even joy, these are contagious. It really affects people around you, right? When you have sort of this unstoppable enthusiasm, this unstoppable happiness, people are going to notice. Maybe they think you're a little crazy, but they're going to notice it. They're at some level, they're going to say, I want to feel that way. I would like to be endlessly creative and endlessly enthusiastic. We've known for a long time, even though it's been suppressed, but people, I'm sure, have heard of Nikola Tesla. There's unlimited energy available, right? There's unlimited. Again, this is the whole download that people are going to receive if they haven't received it already. Is this idea of infinite abundance, and you've seen people talk about that, physicists or whatever. I mean, the universe is sort of infinitely abundant, but certainly energy. People can understand that energy, just to use the sun as an example, the sun's energy is infinitely abundant. Now, the funny thing, I'll just kind of throw in, whether you edit it out or not, that's your choice, but what I think is coming next year is called a Carrington event. And a Carrington event is a massive solar emission, right? They call it, like, we're in a solar maximum now, and so there are all these solar flares coming out. They're saying like 7, 8, the potency of it. Well, a Carrington event is a mass. The last one that happened was 150 years ago. but it's a massive EMP, okay, electromagnetic pulse. And I wrote this book. If anybody's interested, I've got a bunch of little books, these little, not many pages, on lulu.com. Maybe that's in your thing description you put in. But anyway, the third pulse, this thing is coming next year, is this download that's coming from God, from eternity, but it's coming in the form also of a massive solar emission, an electromagnetic pulse that will wipe out temporarily. It'll wipe out all of technology on the planet. So it's going to be a catastrophe for a lot of people that are not prepared for this, because it's going to be difficult to find food. It's going to be difficult. I mean, all kinds of systems are going to break down if what I predict happens. I mean, either way, there's going to be a massive energetic download. But I believe that part of this process has to be like a near-death experience for many people. And some of the people actually have to drop their bodies, because I'm sure a lot of people learn in their NDE that, dropping the body is not a big deal. It might be easier to just reincarnate into your next life than come back into this life and do what seems to be the hard work of birthing a new earth. But either way, what I would tell anybody is I guarantee them paradise, whether they find it in the world or out of this world. So it's kind of like you can do it either way. You can, and people know that if they've dropped their body and then come back, they know that it's not a big deal. It doesn't really change anything important about who you are and how you experience the energetic universe. So I say, whatever's coming next year, bring it on. I'm ready. I'm fully prepared. Like I say too, the people that are drawn to my message and drawn to this idea of living in an Indian highland paradise where we have perfect weather all the time. It's just like I say, it's this perfect sort of manifestation of a Taoist paradise. All things in harmony, all things in balance. And so, people, if they have a lot of interference patterns, they won't be drawn to paradise. But some people are ready for paradise. If they are ready for paradise in this world, I offer it, and I'm sure there's pockets around the world where other people can manifest in a similar way. It's just like finding these places where, literally it's peaceful. And so if there is this situation where we're out of the grid for 6 months or 6 years, that we can survive just fine. And that's an important message for people to hear, so they're not afraid. They're not afraid of sort of the outward consequence. Because again, if people knew ahead of time what they were going to experience in a near-death experience, they wouldn't be so afraid as their car was crashing or as their heart attack was happening or whatever. They wouldn't be afraid, because they know what's on the other side. They can feel that peace. So I never want my message to scare people at all, because there's really nothing to fear. We're all of us are heading into a beautiful paradise again, whether we manifest that fully here on Earth or beyond this world. That's a choice. Yes, I've been sort of gifted with a vision or prophecy for quite a few years, ever since India, I think, or since I recovered from that. But yeah, I would say since 9/11 in 2001, I've had a very clear vision for what's coming in 2008, 2012, what's happening right now. And, again, what I would say to people, write it down. By 2032, that's what I first saw when I saw this book. I saw the last 100 years of Homo sapiens started in 1932 and ends in 2032. So that's the end of Homo sapien, which is, again, our ancestor, just like Homo erectus was our ancestor. Those of us that are awakening to Homo glimiulus or Homo spiritus, we want to see Homo sapiens as our ancestors. And we don't need, you can't change Homo sapien, but you can become something new, right? So that's the whole point of death and reincarnation. But here we're being invited to die without dying, without dropping our body, but just dying to Homo sapien with all of its egoic conditioning and interference patterns, and awaken to this new spiritual reality. And I'm sure most of the people that you've interviewed that have had these experiences, they would all comfortably say, yeah, I fit into the category that Sun King's talking about of homo globulus or homo spiritus, because the near-death experience for these people, it changes the way they see the world. They don't see the world, or they see themselves any longer the same way they did before the experience. So again, dying to Homo sapien is not a bad thing, because we have something better to look forward to. I believe that there will be on the surface, there will be a lot of chaos. Again, think about what it is when a person dies, especially if they die in an accident. Okay, they don't die of old age just laying in their bed. But let's say there's going to be a very big accident next year where the world will be in chaos, upheaval at a certain level. Now, at the level where I am, it won't look like that at all. It'll look like, wow, the celebration is starting. This is really great. Now, people say, how can you say it's great if lots of humans are dying? It's like, well, again, people will only understand my message if they know that there is no death, that the death of the body isn't really anything to be concerned about. So the death of hundreds of millions of bodies is nothing to be concerned about. If this is the requirement for our birthing of a new earth, then bring it on, because I think everybody would agree we would like to have a better earth. We would like to have an earth where humans related with the earth and each other in a much different way, in a way that's filled with patience and generosity and kindness. And those things arise naturally when you have infinite abundance. If you don't have to struggle to live, if life is rich and beautiful and easy, then it's easy to be generous with other people. Because there's a great line from A Course in Miracles that says, it's only infinite patience that yields immediate results. So, like, I've been infinitely patient for 51 years. Now I get to do this thing, which is pretty fun. It's just like when you reach a level of mastery. Actually, I do this internship for 3 months. If people are interested in a 3-month, called the Oasis Experience, the path of mastery, because we're all destined to come into mastery. That's what we're born to become. So I'll call the Homo globulus, the new human. Basically, we're just masterful humans. Like, we know how to do human in a really good way. We know how to be, again, if you're coming from a place of abundance, you know how to be generous. It's easy to be generous. You're not like, you don't see other people as competition anymore. And that's basically the egoic problem of the world, is everybody's competing for, for their small piece of the pie. When everyone's given a beautiful, abundant, easy life, then you don't any longer feel competitive. You're not seeing other people as the enemy. I don't know if you're young, so I'm sure you've heard of the Beatles. John Lennon, he wrote the song many years ago called Imagine. When I started my Oasis Center for Conscious Living in Minnesota first, we used that song as our foundation. And the essence of, imagine a world without governments, without a religion, so this is the world that we're going to be creating. Is a world without countries, without governments, without churches, without religions. It's just humans living together in a new way, but not a new way that's like incomprehensible. It's like, why wouldn't you want to get along with everybody? Why wouldn't you want to love each other? It's the way Jesus or any of the masters taught. I've seen pretty clearly all the things that are happening, and to me, it's not bad. I've always seen it as good. It's like, I would say, there's an expression that to the caterpillar, the butterfly means the end of the world, because the caterpillar can't become the butterfly, literally dies, and then the butterfly forms out of the muck of the dissolved caterpillar. So people that are in that fear-based consciousness, it's difficult for them to believe or accept the message that I'm offering, but doesn't make it not true. It's very true, we're meant to become butterflies. We're meant to become masters, and let's have fun doing it, because this is meant to be a lot of fun. I know most people in the world won't believe me, but this world is meant to be fun. Our life is meant to be fun.